Hi all. Right, welcome back. Enemy Action, Kharkov, German Solo, Part 5. Now, a couple of things to talk about. Made a clumsy mistake already. Not a great start to things. I'm realising though that I think this is going to be harder going. I think I've said that already. So I need to take it slow. I need to put the episodes out, maybe not rush. Thing is, I've got quite a bit of time off now though, so I'm going to be keen to be playing it. Looking for you eagle-eyed guys out there to spot these things. Not that you needed a terribly eagle eye to spot basically the three mistakes that I've made already. One being the actual reduction of this unit from the setup. Okay, you could say, okay, I've not looked at that properly. The other one being not considering assault coordination combat tactic. Yeah, I mean, that was silly. And then this other one, which I'll get to in a minute. Now, I've rewound, you'll see things are slightly different here. I've rewound things a little bit because I just want to go back and discuss the game. There's been a bit of talk about this 9.25 and how the movement methods are linking in. Like I say, Martin did post looking for clarification that that movement method 12 did 9.25 does apply to it, and my reading of it, when you look at 9.25, it clearly does link it to it. But why not have it, the comment at the end of the, and that, I think that's what he's looking for mainly. But it takes it back to this position here, and this was back in part 2. And then Michael had pointed out to me that I was forgetting to read right through the movement method. The movement method is 8. This is movement method 8 we're talking about. Move to an unoccupied hex that is adjacent to a German unit and not adjacent to a Soviet unit adjacent to that same German unit. And then it finishes though with a unit starting in a hex satisfying this movement method does not move by this or any subsequent method except as directed by 9.25. So I think and Michael commented that these units wouldn't move because they were already adjacent to a German unit and they were satisfying the situation at the time, right? But I think these units were also talked about that way, and Martin popped in and said, well, although it does apply to these units, it doesn't actually apply to these units because they are adjacent to a German unit, right? However, they are not adjacent to a Soviet unit adjacent to the same German unit. So they're not actually satisfying that. So they can move with another movement method. Now, I didn't realise this at the time anyway, so I kind of just blundered my way through that part and forgot, and didn't read on, to be honest. Or I might have noticed that. However, what I wouldn't have noticed, and we really need to keep this one hammered into our head now, and I'm pretty sure I will, but you never know, that instruction says that except as directed by 9.25. So, however, so they move to an unoccupied hex that's adjacent to a German unit and not adjacent to a Soviet unit. Well, there's no move that can make to satisfy that, right? He can't make a move. Yeah, I wonder if this comes into that then, because move to an unoccupied hex that's adjacent to a German unit and not adjacent to a Soviet unit. He cannot make that move. Now, I put some of these units might be out of place, but this part was kind of how they were. I mean, okay, I think there was something else on top of that maybe. But it was mainly about how these were, and this hex space was free. Now, unfortunately, because this unit ends up moving in here, we have attacks and whatever, I'm going to have to just fly by this bit and not do anything about it. But I did want to talk about it. So, well, let's see if I've got this straight then, Martin, because if it doesn't apply to these units, then surely we don't consider 9.25 yet. Is that not right? Is that not right? I mean, I get where I get what you. I mean, my thinking was you were saying at first that because these weren't adjacent to a German unit, adjacent to the same Soviet unit, which they're not. Oh, hang on then. Move to an unoccupied head says adjacent to German unit, and not adjacent to a Soviet unit. See, they can't make that move. There's not a hex that they can go to that's going to be adjacent to a German unit that's not adjacent to. So wait a minute. Hang on. I'm getting myself. Let me read this again. I think I'm getting this all the wrong way about. Then, well, I'm going to check Michael's comment first. Hang on. Okay, I should have read the comment back again because this was a while ago now. I should have read the comment back again. It's nothing to do with these two units because these are adjacent to a German unit, and they've got a Soviet unit adjacent to them as well, adjacent to the same German unit. So it doesn't apply to these units. However, it's this unit he's talking about. Now this is adjacent to a German unit, and it's not adjacent. Although it's adjacent to this Soviet unit, it's not adjacent to a Soviet unit that's adjacent to the same German unit. So that does apply. So in actual fact, when we come to that movement method, I should have went like that with him because he has satisfied. He's starting in a hex that satisfies this movement method, so he does not move by this subsequent method, this or any subsequent method, except as directed by 9.25. So, that could open up another can of worms then, because I thought it was this guy here. Oh, see the dog, dear. Right, okay, I'll eventually get this. I had to then look at Martin's comment to understand where I was getting this wrong as well. Dear me, this is going to be hard work. Yeah. And the thing is, it is true about this guy. He is in a hex. Well, no, he's not. Well, yeah, he is. Okay, where I'm pointing him towards here, he is adjacent to a German unit and not adjacent to a Soviet unit, adjacent to that same German unit. Yes, he is. He does satisfy that. Yeah, why am I'm really struggling with this. I really am. I thought I had understood it, and now I'm looking at this unit. He's adjacent to this, but this is also adjacent to it, so it doesn't apply there. But it does apply to him there. So let me pause again. Okay, that's right. That does apply to that guy. Okay, because of that. Now, Michael also said that he thought these units were, and Martin said that these units aren't, because wait now, they are they not, Martin? Yeah, they are the same then, Martin, surely. I don't see how they're not. They are adjacent to a German unit and not adjacent to a Soviet unit, adjacent to that same German unit. Oh, hang on. Move to... Well, hang on, there's 2 units in the hex. Right. Okay, is that what it's... Yes, no, they're not sitting in an unoccupied hex, whereas this one was. Wow, I never seen that either. It's funny, Michael commented that, is that because there's 2 units in the hex? I never clicked to that. I never clicked to that at all. That's what he's meaning. Because this is not an unoccupied hex. It's all, I'm looking in descending order, right? So I'd actually be looking at unit 13 first. Well, in actual fact, it would have been him that moved in, not the guy underneath. So he's not in an unoccupied hex that is adjacent to a German unit and not adjacent to a Soviet unit adjacent to that same German unit. So he isn't locked into that movement. So he wouldn't be tilted that way and said, right, he can't move by any subsequent method. And that also counts true of unit 7 underneath then, because he's in the same position. Right. However, like Martin said, well, no, like I then read on from that if these, no, then they don't apply, Grant. No, then they don't apply. It's this unit that should apply because it's set that it's not going to move. A unit starting a hex satisfying this movement method does not move by this or any subsequent method, except as directed by 9.25. So could we have moved him? Because he could move via 9.25. And 9.25, and this is where I thought this one was. Well, that's maybe good then, because that means, because I didn't think I could rewind this and fix this. I had a feeling that well, I said it was this unit that was moving, but it would have been unit underneath. But he's not moving by that movement method though. So, right, hang on. So, okay, if we're back here at movement method A, can this unit adjust then? Could he reach a hex? I mean, it could be adjacent to this unit, or it could be adjacent to this unit that he could adjust. I mean, the only hex he can adjust into, well, that's not true. He could adjust into this hex or this hex and still be adjacent to that or that. So let's check these preferences. So Soviet operational limit doesn't apply. A hex would cause German unit to become surrounded. None of the hexes would do that. A hex in Soviet support, they're all in support. A hex not adjacent to a Soviet unit. A hex not adjacent to a Soviet unit. Well, if I moved them in there, he'd be adjacent to a Soviet unit. If I moved them into there, he'd be adjacent to a Soviet unit. So that doesn't apply either. An empty or garrisoned hex. Well, he's in an empty hex, and this certainly wouldn't apply. That would be an empty hex, and that would be an empty hex. So that's tie-breaking between the two. A hex not occupied by an active unit. Well, they're both not occupied by an active unit. So does that mean that going through all the preferences, he just stays where he is then? Because tiebreakers should come before that. Yeah, I think so. So I think my take on that is, although he's got two possible hexes that apply to 9.25, this is the hex that is, what's the word then that they use for that again? Requirement. His requirement is to be in this hex. There was no tiebreakers out like that. There was no preferences. That was where his requirement was, to stay in that hex. Then we checked 9.25. He had two optional hexes, and I think he just stays where his requirement is. Would you say that was right, guys? I think I'm going to go with that, because tiebreakers don't come after that. So it's not that I'm trying to tiebreak between these two hexes, I don't think. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go with that. So let's move on then, because just in case I do find something else with these. I know this is going back, but I need to get these things. These are the really tricky parts. You see how I'm struggling to actually work that out there. Right. Okay, right, sorry, I was on pause there for a bit as well. Right, I'm just carrying on from movement method 8 and then checking the other movement methods. Now, nothing applies until you do get to movement method 12. And this is in ascending order. So, yeah. And it says if not adjacent to a German unit, and that can sort of throw you, and you think, I think this is what I done, because I was foolish in not reading through these movement methods. And these are probably the biggest part of the game. So it was silly of me to skip by them, really. Well, I don't know, maybe I did run through this, but if I did, I mean, if not adjacent to German unit, right, let's just say we're looking at unit 4 right now, because he's the lowest. This was an activation of 6th Army at the time. So he's the lowest, but she is adjacent to German unit. So if not adjacent to German unit, move to hex adjacent to German unit, to which another active Soviet unit is also adjacent. However, he is adjacent, so a unit starting adjacent to German unit does not move by this method. So all these units here, right? Well, let's just do to be honest, we would be doing one at a time. So he's not going to move by that method. Now, this is where 9.25 should be kicked in, and I think it should be saying here, except as directed by 9.25. And this is what Martin's asking for clarification. But when you look at 9.25, I know I've maybe harped on this before. Second bullet is that these preferences apply to movement methods that calls for a unit starting adjacent to German unit to not move. Well, this is what's happening here. So 9.25 definitely does apply, in my opinion. Yeah. So, and of course, I didn't take this into consideration. So, would that unit have tried to move elsewhere? Well, in fact, he might have got there first. He might have wanted to move to this hex first. Then. No, hang on. He's considered to be adjacent to this German unit, so that's not going to send him to another German unit, Grant. Okay, so when ending a move adjacent to a German unit, prefer a hex within the current Soviet operational limit. That doesn't apply. A hex that would cause the German unit to be surrounded. So we are just looking at this unit, and can he move to any hex round about that unit that's more preferential? That's basically what we're trying to do. No, we cannot surround them. No. A hex in Soviet support doesn't apply, they're all in support. A hex not adjacent to a Soviet unit. Well, every one of the hexes that you can move to are really just, in fact, it's just here, isn't it? Yeah, you can't move in there. Yeah, the only hex you can move to is here. So is that preferential over there? I very much doubt it is. It would not be a hex not adjacent to a German unit. A hex not adjacent to a Soviet unit. Well, if he moved there, he'd still be adjacent to the Soviet unit underneath there, right? So that wouldn't apply. And then an empty or garrisoned hex. Well, this is not empty or garrisoned. And then a hex not occupied. Oh. A hex not occupied by an active unit. Well, if we've carried out this guy's movement already, and there's no more to be done with him, now I'll need to look for the description again of an active unit. But in the last game, and I believe it was slightly different, because Martin picked up on that, the fact that an active unit in that enemy action Ardennes was classed slightly differently to what it is in this, in the Soviet solo. So let me have a look here. Okay, I've been on pause again for a good bit. I was away trying to find, I questioned this in the Soviet solo, and I can't find the question, which is really frustrating. Like, see what we've done with this unit. This has had an action. Now, the action actually was that it wasn't going to move in this. So that could also be picked up as maybe it's not done anything, has it? What I'm trying to find out here is this an active unit at the moment still? Is this still an active unit? Because what we're trying to do, I've moved the page. Just let me read you the description of an active unit for this game. A Soviet unit in activated formation on the map or in the reserve units box. This includes units activated because they are stacked with units of formation activated by a front or staff car card. That's all it tells you. And just looking at the Soviet solo, and the description of an active unit was a unit in the activated formation that has not yet performed an action in the current activation. They're kind of different, aren't they? I mean, the one for the German solo kind of tells you that this could still be classed as an active unit. I'm going to have to ask a question here. I think. I wish I could find the question that I brought up. I mean, I know this is the German solo and not the Soviet solo, so it could well be different. But my situation was, the unit had actually moved. So it was like, let's just say this guy had been here and he decides to move into here, right? And then we move on to another unit. right? Is this unit still classed as active, or is it now active? Well, its description is a unit in activated formation that has not yet performed an action in the current activation. Again, this is for the Soviet solo, not for the German solo that we're playing just now. So it could be that it's meant to be different. But within the Soviet solo, that would mean that that's not now an active unit. And the reason I'm trying to find that out, obviously, is because going back to 9.25, preference F is a hex not occupied by an active unit. Well, at the moment, this guy can actually be in this hex or this hex. We've decided that that's the two possibles that he can be in. He's sitting with an active unit. This is definitely active because this hasn't done anything yet because we're doing it in ascending order. But is this unit classed as an active unit or not? If he's active, then I understand that guy stays where he is. If he's now inactive, then this would adjust into here, I think. It would go out and in and adjust into there. So, well, yeah, I mean, but to be honest, the description, like I've just read out to you there, is quite different. I've lost the page for that now. Oh, there it's there, I'm at it. A Soviet unit in this is the description of an active unit, a Soviet unit in activated formation on the map or in the reserve units box. This includes units activated because they are stacked with units of formation activated by a front or staff card. Right, I'm definitely going to ask a question now. I mean, it doesn't seem to suggest that what I've read there could still quite easily say that this is still an active unit at the moment, but I don't know. It was a bit clearer in the Soviet solo, but it wasn't that clear there as well, because I remember asking questions and I wish I could find that question, because Martin commented that it was different to what it was in Ardennes as well. Okay, right, I'll be back in a sec. Okay, I did indeed post a question. However, I was halfway through typing it up when I realised that, hang on Grant, this unit is clearly still active because it's adjacent to a German unit. And in this game, yeah, it's slightly different in the fact that once a unit is adjacent to a German unit, you'll then check for combat and he might attack that. So he is clearly still active, I've got to say. So yeah, maybe that requires a different sort of terminology for it. However, I think you could still be in the position. That's why I was about to scrap the question and think, oh well, wait a minute, Grant, he is still active clearly, because we would be considering an attack on this guy. And in fact, does the guy not get attacked here? I think he might do. I'll need to adjust. Yeah, because he does retreat back into here. And yeah, there's some adjusting still to be done. But I reckon you could be in a position where you've just moved a unit and it's not adjacent to a German unit. However, yeah, the bit that I'm trying to deal with is 9.25, which is adjacent to a German unit. So, is it actually going to crop up this? Yeah, it might be an irrelevant sort of question, really. I would still be curious to know though, because it could possibly come into it, and it certainly did ask the question in the last game. I just can't find where the question is. If somebody can link me to it, well, mind you, now that I've asked it, I mean, if this unit was to end up, up here, and that's it moved to there for some reason, right? There's no German unit round about it, and we've still got other units to activate. Is this now classed as inactive, or is it still an active unit until the impulse ends? Whereas in the Soviet solo game, this would now be not an active unit because of the way it's worded, it is completed an action. Whereas this guy hasn't quite completed an action because he could still be involved in an attack. Right, okay. So in actual fact, that means that guy would stay there. It means that also the guy underneath, now I know he's selector number 8 though. Yeah, so we should really be looking at 7 next. And this is, we're still looking at movement method 12, so strengthen potential attack. It's not adjacent to German unit. which it is, move to a hex adjacent to a German unit to which another active Soviet unit is also adjacent. Well, he is adjacent to a German unit, so he's not going to move by this movement method, so I can tell him like that, he's not going to move. However, 9.25, let's have a look. Right, operational limit, we're never going to get that one and the one that about hex being in Soviet support are all going to apply at the moment till we get later on in the game. So B as a hex, it would cause German unit to become surrounded. So we're looking at any possible other hexes that we could get adjacent to this unit. Well, we can't get in here. We can, however, get in here, and we can't get in there. So we can get in here, and I think this is where this guy would have moved. So yeah, I went and edited my comment to Martin saying, no, I think I've got that wrong, scrap that. And now I actually realise, I think, oh, hang on. Is it not? Is this not in descending order? No, it's not, because this is strength and potential attack. So it is that guy. Okay. So yeah, I must have been thinking about this right enough, straight. It's just thrown me. Okay, so right, we can't surround the unit. So a hex in Soviet support, let's say we ignore that. A hex not adjacent to a Soviet unit. Well, this hex that he's in is adjacent to a Soviet unit. This hex would be adjacent to a Soviet unit. So that doesn't apply. However, the next one is going to apply, and it's an empty or garrisoned hex. So in actual fact, this guy would have went out and in and tactically adjusted himself, is how I like to put it, adjacent to a better hex, a more preferential hex. So he actually would have ended up there. Right. However, I'm going to have to just skip by that one and just say that we missed it, because this guy ends up moving round here, makes an attack on here, and it would be too much to try and reverse, even though this is where this attack is, I think, is it this attack where I make my other mistake? Yeah, and that's another silly one. I can see what I was looking at when I done it, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so but he would have adjusted to there, going by what I'm reading there. So let me know if you think that was right or wrong. We would have then looked back at Unit 8 here, and he would have been marked as in like not going to move because he's adjacent. He wouldn't been able to tactically adjust because he's the same as Unit 4. We would have then checked Unit 13. He wouldn't have been wanting to move because he's adjacent to a German unit, and tactically adjusting him would not have found the empty hex. So the last preference would be a hex not occupied by an active unit. Well, in actual fact, you know what? This guy's still active, in my opinion, because he's going to do an attack check. This hex has no active unit, so he would actually stay there within the preferences there. Okay, so let me know your thoughts on that. I'm going to put these back. I'm going to have to just unfortunately say that we missed that one, and to be honest, Martin's still not had, there's not been, hopefully John Butterfield's going to come along and say, but I mean, my reading in 9.25 still says that would happen, Martin, which I think you probably know that. I think you're just looking for the wording at the bottom that should say it, and I agree with you there. I think it should, but it does look like I should have moved that guy into there, but I'm going to leave it, I'm going to move it back to that. Right, let's move on from that, and let's reset things a little bit more back to where I made my latest mistake, and it's John Brown that's picked this one up. Glad that you're tagging along now, John. I think he's just possibly given up watching the Soviet solo because he doesn't get as much time, I don't think, and he's maybe wanting to be seeing, maybe wants more to see the German solo. So he's picked up this one, and it's another stupid one, and I'll show you in a second. Okay, after going through things trying to find out. Right, this was the situation we were in, and again, this is activation of Popov units. This was this part 3, I think, yeah, and it was the very end. This is the one John's picked up, and it's checking an attack from this guy and this guy, and these guys had made an attack. I've seen what kind of would have happened. I think this unit would end up, was it in there or something? I'm not going to go back and try and fix that. We'll just put that down to a wee glitch. I don't think it's going to affect the Russian attack very much. In fact, in actual fact, it might have ended up being slightly better for me, for them, the way it's turned out. But I can't really say for sure, and I don't want to rewind that. And then, like I say, if this unit had moved into there, then I don't think this unit would have moved into there. I think it would have moved into another hex. So I don't think this unit would have got attacked, and yada yada. It's a kind of knock-on effect. I'm just going to leave, and we'll just push through that, and then put that down to just, well, one of these things. Okay, so the attack was checking here, and we were 1-to-1 odds, and we went through, and this is where I made my blunder about thinking it was this unit being surrounded that was giving me a +1, where in actual fact it's attacking units being surrounded. But I also didn't count the fact that this guy was flanked. Well, in actual fact, that's not the case, because I realised this guy wasn't flanked, because now at the time these units were like that because they made an attack, and that's the unit who got eliminated. And I think this is what threw me. So they were sitting like that, as well as I think these were as well. But I'll just turn these like that because that's a relevant stat. So even when I checked the tactical value, I did realise that this wasn't flanked. He wasn't going to be flanked by just a single unit attacking. Although he is flanked by these, it's not going to be a flank attack. So why did I not carry that forward with me, that thought? So I don't count that one, right? However, that's the one I should have counted, because it's got more information. It says if flanking will apply, or if the defender will be surrounded and unable to trace supply once all attacking units are in place. Well, the unit is surrounded and won't be able to trace supply, so the +1 should have got applied to that. It shouldn't have got applied to the fact that he was surrounded when it was looking at that. That balanced out, but should that not have sort of stuck in my head that this guy's not, it's not a flank attack on this guy. And however, what makes it even worse for me is we draw assault coordination, which brings these guys into the attack. So this is what I see here like this. The chits that we draw that apply, there's 5 chits. It still is five chit pools. One of them's a clear D1, which applies. The other one that applied was actually the first chit that I draw, and it's flank attack. And I just look at that and say, yeah, that's a flank attack, because I'm seeing that. So I'm going to have to be more careful. It's clearly not a flank attack, as John's pointed out. It was just a 1-hex attack until these assault coordinated in. I mean, I even mentioned the fact that if these units had been active and not yet conducted an attack, they would have been drawn in with assault coordination. Then that would have been a flank attack, but that didn't happen. So I counted that D1 as a flank attack. So in actual fact, and so it was a D2 result, okay, which meant that I retreated once, took a step loss, because I'm still in zone of control. There was no hex I could retreat into that wouldn't take a step loss. So I retreated once, take a step loss, and then of course with me thinking it was D2, I retreated the guy again into there. So however, he should have just been there. These were assault coordinated and wouldn't been able to advance after combat. This unit did advance after combat and he advanced into there. So that's what the situation should have been, and he shouldn't have been dispersed as well at the time. So that's where we're at just now. Now, when I go into turn 4, I then conduct the Rouse activation and then decide to do that. So I'm not going to mess about with that, but the thing is, this would have still happened. I would have moved that guy back to there, and the dispersal would have dropped off of there. Now, what I've done with this guy was, I've actually got the IP on underneath him. Let's just revisit that. Well, in fact, that's not going to go on, because I'm not going to leave the guy there now. And I know there's a bit, we've moved on a little bit, but I've got to do something about it, and it was an error that, okay, this benefits me, this error that the guy only took 1 hit. He was only taking 1 hit instead of 2. So this guy's not dispersed. So what am I thinking was I could retreat, I could move him 1, 2, 3 out of the artillery barrage. Now, I didn't want to do that. Well, I couldn't do that before because he was dispersed, and I didn't want to retreat this guy back out the thing because it was then leaving a gap. However, why don't I do 1, 2, 3, 4? That's still creating a gap, though, Grant, isn't it? It is still leaving a gap there. You know, there's no. Oh no. Well, the thing is, I've still got the card in my hand to get that guy, and why not next impulse, get that guy out, and then have a better line here. So where do I want to move? If I retreat him next turn, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 1, 2, 3, well, I can only really go there. So let's say I retreat that guy to there next turn. And I know I've got that card in my hand, so it's not as if I'm like got new information here regarding that. So 1, 2, is it any better going here? Well, this guy can only go 1, 2, well, that's not true, 3, he could go there or there as well, Grant, couldn't he? Well, I think if he goes there, and then this guy goes 1, 2, 3, 4, does that not create a better line? Well, we've not got that adjacency though. Would it not be better having the adjacency? 1, 2, 3, having them adjacent, and then that 57 core unit comes back there, and there's still a line, but the 2 Rouse units have got that adjacency bonus. I think so. I think I'll go with that. So that would have been my move. Now, I know the Soviets are getting an impulse in between, so I'm taking a slight chance with the fact that these guys might come through and come round the back of these. We have activated them once already, so I'll take my chances with that, I suppose. But yeah, and I think the next impulse, unless things go horrible and I need to get the, I mean, I do want to get the second SS out though, but I think my next impulse I'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4, back him up to there, and then we've got a line back here that's outside. Well, this guy's not outside the zone, but well, does that mean 1, 2? Yeah, this guy can only reach this hex. I can't reach this hex because that would lock that in better, and then I could have moved that along. Yeah. Right, okay. I'll leave it at that. Leave it at that. Right, that's 37 minutes gone by, and I've done nothing. Just try and fix things, talk about things. Some interesting things cropping up already though. But some daft blunders. I mean, the assault coordination, should have remembered that. The fact this wasn't a flank attack, how did I not see that? You can see what my case might have been, the fact these Popov units were like that, and it looked like I was, but I mean, I should know what's attacking and what's not. But I'm going to have to keep an eye on that more, because in the Soviet solo game, you didn't really have that situation where multiple attacks were going on for the AI. So it is kind of different here. Okay, so what I'll do is I think I'll just cut there. I need to go and get the dogs out. And if I cut it here and start a German impulse, and we'll see how long it's going to be, and if it's going to be too long, then I can just upload this as a part that doesn't do an awful lot. Okay, right, so I'll either be back with the end of part 5, or it might be the start of part 6, we'll see. Okay, cheers guys.